Welcome back. We are ACI Course 10, Class 6, September 19th, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning more and more about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that state of mind, turn your attention back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers, the great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. Last week, we learned the 4 powers of purification. And we learned that those 4 powers are like 4 essential parts of the car that are necessary to all be functioning properly, adequately at least, in order to bring about the result of cleaning up those negative imprints that we've realized, yikes, right? If I leave those there unaffected, they're just gonna continue to grow into some unpleasant experience for me, in which there's always others involved. So we learned that those 4 powers in Master Shanti Davis teaching start with that power of destruction, it's called, meaning the regret. Hey, if we don't regret some imprint we've put inside there, there's no reason to do purification. So it makes sense to start with our regret, but the healthy regret of an educated Buddhist. The reason we have regret is because we did something that will come back to hurt us, me, right? It's like, whoa, how selfish is that? No, perfectly selfish. Because now we're gonna fix it. And everybody's gonna benefit. Second power is the power of foundation, recalling our refuge in bodhicitta, but not just the words, what refuge means. Emptiness and karma, that marriage. And then the bodhicitta, our concern for others, right? Turning our renunciation onto others. And then the last two powers, the power of the antidote, doing something to make up for the negativity, which like puts the opposite energy into our mind that is what negates the negative. And we learned that the most powerful antidote is always has something to do with emptiness. Reading about it, studying about it, meditating on it, which tells us that even in those other classical antidotes that don't say anything about emptiness, that we do them with the understanding of their emptiness in order to increase their power as the antidote. And then the power of restraint, meaning we can't say to ourselves, I'm trying to clean out that negative seed, and then repeat that behavior and have our own mind believe what we say, right? So we want that integrity to carry out our purification practice by refusing to repeat the behavior we are trying to purify. And of course, that's where the practice of purification comes, because sometimes we purify something that's so habitual that we've done it again before we even realize it. And the whole system is designed such that when we find that happen, we just go, whoops, purify again, right? Where our tendency, my tendency is when I do stuff like that, it's like, oh man, I'm never going to get this right. I'm so bad. Like, this isn't going to work for me. Instead of just like, oh, right? That's how it works. That's how ignorance works. And we just get back up on the horse. Master Shantideva says that happens, what I just described, because we're sick, right? He quotes Lord Buddha, who says, look, you're not bad, you're just sick. And that's why you do stuff that hurts in our effort to get happy. If we could just help you get well, you wouldn't do that anymore. And that sickness that we all have is like being poisoned, not just with one poison, but 3 poisons. The poison of ignorantly liking things, ignorantly disliking things, and of course the ignorance underlying both of those others. So we could say that one poison is carrying the other 2. If we could get free of the poison of ignorance, we would automatically be free of the other 2 poisons. And we work on all 3 of them together. So then we got that definition of ignorant liking, if you recall. An independent thought whereby one wishes not to lose an impure object which appears to be attractive. Like, I find that definition a little bit awkward, because when I put it like into my experience, it feels to me like I'm choosing to see an impure object as attractive. I don't know, it has that implication to me. And so, okay. I want to think of it as reminding me that anytime I'm wanting not to lose an attractive object, the ignorant piece in that is not realizing the object that I'm wanting is in fact impure when it looks pure, meaning it looks like its pleasure is in it from it, and that anything that I do to get it is fine as long as I end up having it. And that's the impurity piece. So for me, it's like, it's this independent thought which wants not to lose an attractive object, when in fact that attractive object is something that's impure, meaning it's the cause of more suffering. Ignorant liking. There's not a problem at all with liking stuff. It's the ignorant liking that causes the trouble. The willingness to do something grossly or subtly unkind to another in order to get or keep the thing. And again, it's a long story because my own mind goes, I'm not willing to do something unkind to someone to get what I want. It just sometimes happens, right? I try to get the thing and then somebody's feelings get hurt. I didn't set out to hurt their feelings to get the thing. And yet I'm still having ignorant liking if I'm not really, really careful about understanding where the pleasure comes from. It's not, in fact, coming from the thing at all, right? So that's where we're dancing with this ignorant liking in an accurate way. We're trying to find the ignorance part of it, not the liking part of it, right? That's not what we're trying to negate. Then we learned after our purification practice, we have this beautiful space available in our minds to gather the positive energy. And so we had those 5 activities that collect the positive energy that helps us develop our bodhicitta, right? All of this is about how to grow our wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings from an idea into those 2 actual experiences, seeing emptiness directly and the heart opening, seeing the face of every being and loving them. That puts us on that conveyor belt to the end of all suffering for everybody and our own omniscience to help them get there. So those 5 activities we learned. The first one was rejoicing in the goodness of others and ourselves, of course, being happy with any goodness that we see. You know, and technically all the goodness that we see is stained goodness, right? It's goodness that's done for the wrong reason, but that doesn't matter. It's kindness. Kindness, even for the wrong reason, is something to rejoice in. And of course, if we ever see kindness is done for the right reason, those are really rejoiceables. But how are we going to know what's in the mind of somebody else when we see them doing something helpful, something kind? Same for our own kindnesses. Be happy we've done them, because to revisit them, think of them again with satisfaction. Yeah, I'm glad I did that, is a whole new set of seeds it's similar to the ones that are already there. And so the positivity is adding to positivity is adding to positivity. You know, I think I said before that we can make good karma just laying on the couch by thinking of the goodness of others and goodness that we've done and being happy for it. Because we're making karmic seeds just thinking about it. Which means that when we sit around and think about the negativities of others and negativities that we've done, and like we're doing the same thing. We're making new seeds that add to those old negative seeds, and we're spiraling down, which we have a tendency to ruminate, right? About those negativities. Why not grow the tendency to ruminate about the good things we have and that we see? And we have so much goodness that we take it for granted, don't we? Like we can get on the phone and call for lunch and it's there an hour later. We can walk outside, right? And get on a bus or a Uber or something and be downtown. We don't even have to do the driving. We have so much goodness that we just go, you know, that's life now. But we created that. Okay. So rejoicing. Second one, urging the holy beings to turn the wheel of the Dharma, meaning asking them to continue to teach. Requesting them not to pass into nirvana. We talked about that. No, please stay, please stay, please stay. Like you go to somebody and say, please don't die. It's like, well, okay, I'll, you know, if I could, I would. But it's for our own mind seeds. Please stay. Next one is dedication. Dedicating those goodness, those kindnesses that we do. Dedicating our practice of purification, right? Helps our practice of purification get stronger. Then the surrender, meaning generating this mental state of like willingness to continue on the path, willingness to give of ourselves, willingness to be available, willingness to change our habits. Right? We can say, I'm going to change, but some part of us is still like, no, right? I'm not really going to change. And it blocks our successful efforts. And so this idea of surrender or willingness to turn ourselves into a vehicle for other beings' happiness wisely, not cultivating being a people pleaser, you know, that ends up resentful and hurt, but being a force, right? A vessel for this power that's beyond what we think is us. Just this power of love, compassion, and wisdom, like represented by that being that we call forth at the beginning of class. If we can even think of someone like that, where are those seeds coming from? Yeah, okay. Then we learned about rejoicing practice, that the opposite of rejoicing was jealousy, which I remember when I first heard that, somehow it was one of those shockers. It's like, whoa, what? The opposite of rejoicing is jealousy. And they say jealousy is like the opposite of our bodhicitta. Because our bodhicitta is this willingness to do what we need to do to become a being that will be what every being needs. And so we're saying, I'm in the happiness of others making business. And then we see somebody who has some success and something in us goes, why'd they get that? You know, why not me? And it's like the opposite of what our bodhicitta state of mind is. And it happens so subtly inside that I went a long time saying, I'm jealous, I'm jealous. And then I realized that I have this constant critical thing going on in my mind, and I see somebody in a fancy car, and instead of going, wow, what a cool car, happy for them, I go, why would they spend so much money on a car? And I thought that was just being stupid critical, but underneath the stupid critical was a little bit of jealousy. I don't want a car like that, but something inside, why would they do it? Because I don't want it. Why would they? Do you see? Jealousy is very, very slippery creature. Rejoicing is its opposite. So to cultivate, instead of that critical mind, the wow, right? Cool car for them. Hope they're really happy with it. Wow, right? I'm glad that person got their raise. To counter the mind that goes, why didn't I get it? Right? And it's just so habitually human that sometimes it takes some digging to recognize that habitually human state of mind is hurting us instead of helping us. Then this quiz went on for a long time. What are we wishing for when we make a dedication? We learned that this thought to use the words, I dedicate whatever I just did to all beings' enlightenment, or to all beings being free from illness, is how we make sure that the kindness seeds that we just planted stay safe, so they can't be inadvertently damaged by the next piece of jealousy or ill will or whatever that I have. And someone along the way said, how does dedication really work? And it has to do with our thought that if I could give my karma to somebody else, I would give this karma to them for this reason. And what happens when we give something away? Right? It's going to turn around and come back to us. So we can't literally give away karma. If that was possible, any fully enlightened being would in the next instant give all their good karma to everybody, and we would all be enlightened already. So maybe you all are, but I know I'm not. So I know then that Buddhists can't give karma away, which means, they haven't given their karma away, which means they can't, because the whole state of mind that got them to Buddhahood was the willingness to give everything. So if they could have given their karma, they would have, because they're Buddha. So obviously they can't, which means I can't either. But I can wish I could. And I could say the words, I dedicate this goodness to the total enlightenment of all beings. And then you could make the case, well, you're not really giving it away, because you're one of the all sentient beings that you've just dedicated those seeds to. So how is it really giving it away? Right? It's the willingness to give it away. Technically, it's the willingness to do anything that is the important piece here. And then it's the willingness to avoid hurting anybody in the process, grossly and subtly. All right, lastly from the quiz. No, that was the last one for the quiz. So all of that was review. We're still studying the third chapter, Acquiring the Wish. And we've been going through the steps necessary to clear the obstacles to acquiring the wish, so that we can actually start collecting the goodness that will ripen into the wish. So we learned about making offerings, going for refuge, doing prostrations in some order that prepare us for successful purification. Then, after our purification, we're prepared to gather the goodness. And all together, those become what are called the 7 meditation preliminaries. So they are built into our daily practice if we are meditating daily. And we can also do those 7 steps as a whole practice that includes some meditation on emptiness. And that whole practice is a practice called Ganden Lagyama, known as the 1,000 Angels of Bliss practice. And it's a session where we visualize certain things, say the prayers that include these 7 steps, use mantra, names of holy being mantra, and see the effect of our prayer, pouring into us, clearing out that which we are purifying, and then ending with our reliance upon the holy being and doing an emptiness meditation briefly. And just as an advertisement, we're teaching that practice and learning to use it in a retreat coming up at the end of the year in Mexico. The sisters Katja and Shayla are organizing that. I think there might be still spaces open if you wish to join us. So this whole process that we've been learning about can be your daily practice. We are taught to use them before meditation in order to help our meditation progress reach the platform from which we could have the direct perception of emptiness when other factors trigger it. If we don't have the ability to hold that level of meditative concentration, we don't have all the contributing factors necessary for that direct perception of emptiness to get triggered. So the next step, says Master Shantideva in this chapter, is this shift of deciding we want to declare to ourselves being on this path of bodhicitta. We've grown enough goodness and cleared out enough obstacles that we have this idea, wow, is there some way that I can really declare myself on the path? And this tradition gives a ceremony in which someone who has done that too, we ask them, please give me my ceremony for bodhicitta. And then if they agree, right, we go through this formal process that we learn how to do it and they guide us through, where we are hearing our own selves make this declaration before these holy beings that I am going to grow this wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And I am going to try to cultivate those behavior changes that will move me along that path. Please help me do it. So we don't have to take a ceremony. The reason we do is because of the impact it has on our mind, and then all our mind seeds that we're planting ever after that. We don't get the actual bodhicitta while we're in the ceremony. I didn't anyway. I suppose you could, but it's not likely. We plant the seeds for it to happen, however. And traditionally, it's done in 2 ceremonies. The first time we ask, we're asking to do this ceremony to get the wish strong enough to later be able to commit myself to the actual behavior changes. Then, after we've been working on our wish in the form of the prayer, at some point we feel ready to declare ourselves in taking the vows. So that means that the first time we take this ceremony, we hear the vows, we've learned about the vows, we declare, I'm going to try them on for size and see how they affect me before I actually declare myself on that path. And it really is a nice system. You know, you get to try it out. And if you decide, no, I'm really not ready to make that declaration to take my vows, fine, right? Everybody loves you anyway. The Buddhas will stay right there with you. When we're ready, right, we go, oh, now I've got it. I can do these vows. Then you come back and say, can I have them as vows? Because I already know I can do them, right? It's really a nice system. Curiously, the ceremony to get the wish in the form of the wish, the prayer, and the ceremony for taking the vows is the same ceremony. So nobody knows, if they're watching the ceremony, who's taking them as vows and who's taking them as the wish. Probably technically you would want to tell the who's giving the vows, I'm taking it as the wish versus I'm taking it as the vow. But that isn't even absolutely necessary. You're the one who needs to know. But then we would want to have it really clear, right? I'm not actually taking my vows today. I'm declaring that I'm going to work on the idea, the ideal, and I'm going to try those behaviors on for size. Then later you repeat the ceremony as vows. And then technically they say it's fine to take the ceremony as often as you wish to renew your vows. So, you know, our vows are going to get messed up. ACI Course 7 is all about Bodhisattva vows, what they are, how to keep them, when we break them, what to do about it. Lost my train of thought on that one. We can renew the ceremony. And actually, they'll teach us that you don't even have to go to somebody else to renew your Bodhisattva vows, that we can do it formally in front of our own altar, an image of the Buddha. We'll learn that stuff later. So to take a ceremony to commit to the wish in the form of the prayer and or the wish in the form of action, to have that impulse is really extraordinary. in that ceremony, there are 4 steps. And the one taking the ceremony is guided through it. You don't have to know it by heart when you get there. The ceremony takes us through purifying obstacles, collecting positive energy. The ceremony for the wish, either in prayer or in action. And then taking joy after the ceremony is done. And then in our daily practice, we then have these same 4, right? We clear obstacles with purification. We gather the positive energy. We recommit to our wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings daily. Technically, multiple times daily. And then we do the taking joy practice, the rejoicing practice, we call it, in order to cement, right, and add to the seeds of goodness that we've done all day. And then, of course, we dedicate, which is in there somewhere, even though it's not a separate step. So this class, which we've finally gotten to, is about taking joy, the taking joy part. It seems to be a hard one for a lot of us, myself included. There we are. Do I have everybody? I think so. So taking joy in the native language, Gawa Gompa. Gawa means joy. Gompa means meditation. But here, excuse me, here in the sense of habituating to, getting used to taking joy, right? Growing the habit of taking joy. In the ceremony of the Bodhisattva vows, the master of ceremonies leads us through a taking joy practice. They encourage us to reflect on how amazing it is that we have just pledged to cultivate the happiness of others and be happy with that. With that, excuse me, the power of that action, of just having taken the ceremony. It imprints the power of the ceremony in our mind with extra strength. It's the piece of the 4 steps that's that end, the completion part, is to say, wow, I just got my vows. Wow, I just declared myself on my path to Buddhahood. Wow, right? Our own mind is watching. And it takes all those seeds that we just planted and adds the wow factor. And they get solidified. And we end with dedicating. So then they're parked in the bank. I need to take a time out and cough here. All right, let's try again. They teach us there are two parts to being happy. Being happy for ourselves with the goodness that we just did. Being happy with ourselves for being on our path. And then being happy for making others happy. So that was a little bit harder in the sense that right at the end of the ceremony, in our taking joy, they say, be happy with yourself and be happy with having made others happy. And it's like, how did my taking the Bodhisattva vows ceremony make somebody else happy? Like, who? Well, of course, if there were other people taking the ceremony with you, right? You contributed to their happy ceremony. If there's anybody witnessing the ceremony, right? Presumably they're happy that there's people that have just taken the ceremony. But you know, that's probably a small group compared to the all sentient beings we just did it for. How do they know anything about what's going on? And then what about all those sentient beings that I'm sorry, all the enlightened beings that we called forth to be there with us at the ceremony? Did we just make them happy? That's something to think about, right? Holy beings, enlightened beings, they're all happy all the time. So how do we add any happiness to somebody who's ultimately happy? And yet somehow we do, because what we're doing in the moment has never happened before. And it will never happen again in exactly the same way. And those omniscient beings, they're aware of us doing it. And it does contribute to their happiness, like beyond happiness, their bliss. Because, right, we're experiencing it. So there are a lot of different ways to be happy for how we're making others happy by taking our wish. So, all right, that's just after the vow ceremony. You know, I took my last vow ceremony, I can't remember how long ago. But every day when we retake our vows, you know, nobody's there but you and your altar. But those enlightened beings, at least your one special one, is there. And so our being happy for ourselves can include, and I'm contributing to the bliss of enlightened beings by increasing my own happiness. Be happy for making others happy. So in this being happy for ourselves, that we cultivate that by thinking of what our bodhicitta will help us do. Like what our bodhicitta so far has helped us and how it will help us in the future choose our behavior such that we can better contribute or try to contribute to the happiness of others. We are thinking of its goodness as how it is the method, the tool through which I make this change in myself from suffering being to ultimately happy being. It is our tool for achieving our goals. So there are three parts to this being happy for ourselves. I only have the Tibetan for one of its parts, and that's this one, the Sangtupa. Sangtupa means to uplift our hearts. Which is trying to describe the right feeling of being joyful, is this sense of uplift. I guess. And that feeling will grow in us over time. For most of us, it comes in maybe fleeting moments related to some outside experience. And then we feel it a little, and then the experience passes and the feeling passes. What we are cultivating is a state of mind that's always uplifted like that, without it ever becoming normal. And that joy, they call it bliss. So there are 4 sections, 4 parts to this uplifting our hearts. There are 3 parts to being happy for yourself. There's 4 parts in the uplifting your heart. Don't you love the Gelugpas? They live in outlines. So if you're an outline lover, you'll love being Gelugpa. This one comes to us in these 4 lines of verse, which I'm going to read to you, but not go through it word for word. And this is the verse that you will be guided through in your Bodhisattva vow ceremony. And it's a verse that we can use to renew our wish. And so in many prayers, it and some that comes after it are often included in the prayers, independent of a vow ceremony. Excuse me again. So it goes like this. Dengdu dakse drebu yu mi sipa lekparto derin sange riksuke sange sesu dakyurto. And they'll say it 3 times in the ceremony. They give it to us in this sing-song way that has the same number of syllables in each line, so that it's easy to memorize. And then it doesn't translate in English in that same way and make any sense. What it means is, from this moment, my life has become truly fruitful. I have truly achieved a human rebirth. Today, I have been born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I am a child of the Buddhas. That's worded to come at the end of your ceremony of taking the wish or the vows. And it means that because of what I've just done, I see now that I finally am using this human life in the highest way it was meant for. Later we'll learn that to be human is to have all those 6 things needed to be able to transform our perception of ourselves from suffering being to ultimately happy being. And only humans have the 6 things needed to be able to do that from that form, the form as a human. All minds have the capacity. Every mind has the no self nature that allows it to happen. but from a human form, we have what it takes to do it in that lifetime. We didn't know that before, right? We didn't know that we even wanted it. We didn't know that's what our mind is like going towards. We didn't know it before. And once we've taken this vow ceremony to commit ourselves to the path, right, there's this, wow, finally I get what I'm meant to do, right? Sometimes at the beginning of class, I'll find myself saying that, to become the one who can help the other. Deep down, we know it's possible. Deep down, we know that's what we're meant to become. And it's this idea. It's like, whoa, I finally understand. And it's supposed to uplift us, not scare us, right? Not, it's an uplift factor. Then it's followed with, I've truly achieved a human rebirth. I mean, we were human before that. But once we're human on our path to transforming suffering into happiness, now you're a human of a different flavor, a human of what humanness is ultimately for, I guess. The third line, today I've been born into the family of the Buddhas. And the first time we take our Bodhisattva vows, wish, is what this line is referring to. But every time we renew our wish, even to ourselves, we still are reminding ourselves, yeah, I have been born into the family of the Buddhas. But what does that really mean, born into the family of the Buddhas? If Buddhas are omniscient, then they already know me. How could I have not been in the family? And just because I take this ceremony now, I'm part of the family. It's like taking our Bodhisattva vows is our adoption papers being accepted. And now they are our family. But come on, wasn't I family before? But in the sense that, yes, their omniscience makes them directly aware of me before, and their love loves me before. But once I declare myself on the path, it's like now I get to move in with them, and so now they have met me as an individual instead of just one face amongst, trillions. Now I'm there. I can do their laundry. I can, bring them tea. I can mess up, and say the wrong thing in front of them. They know us more individually by taking our vows. And I don't know, the first couple times I heard that, I felt like embarrassed and scared, and I didn't want to be seen by them because, I'm so puny. But then as I learned and understood better about the qualities of those holy beings, meaning my own my own vision of them, my own seeds were improving. It's like, no, I get what they're trying to say. It's like now I'm really more directly under their care than before. I allowed myself to become more directly under their care. And it still took me years before I figured out how to do that. How to tap in to that power and use it for guidance. Okay, let me do the fourth one and then we'll take our break. The last line says, now I've become a child of the Buddhas. So it's extending this being born into the family of the Buddhas. So I've moved in with the Buddhas, not as their maid, but as their long lost child. So it's a little bit different if you move in, as someone to serve them, which that'd be cool. But to move in as the long lost child, right? They're gonna treat you differently. No, they're not. They treat everybody the same. But you get the feeling from our own heart is if you know, your child has been gone for a long, long time, and then they come back and it's like, right? So it's like that when we take our Bodhisattva vows. We have a more direct connection from our own side, of course, so that we can better rely on them than we were before. A personal connection with your holy being is the idea. Hopefully that makes us go, wow, right? Wow. The whole idea is it's the stage of uplifting our heart. And as I shared, it didn't uplift me the first couple of times I learned about this. It scared me. It's like, I don't know if I can live in with the Buddha, you know? Now it's better. All right, let's take our break, shall we? I'm gonna let the recording go, so there'll be a big blank spot, please. Yes. Nice and easier. Will we keep writing? Yes. That's enough. Otherwise, it'll be too hot to drink. Thank you. Yes, please. I just said it well and use it later. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, wait, that's not empty. It's off. Oh, I'll drink it. I'll drink it. Yes, I hear. It does. Yes. Wow. Well, it's my own hair, so who cares? Just leave it there. I will drink it. Thank you. Sorry, recording. You didn't need to hear that.
Lama Sarani, you wanted me to remind you about that, the 35 Buddhas video? If
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's be back. Mhm. When we learned about our Bodhisattva vows before, we learned that Bodhisattva vows impact us in such a way that they continue on in the mind stream beyond this life. That individual freedom vows and refuge vows don't. With refuge vows aren't really vows. Our pratimoksha vows are this life. This individual takes those vows, and they end when this individual ends, which is this lifetime. But Bodhisattva vows impact us across lifetimes. So when we first declare ourselves onto that path, it has this significant impact on that mind stream, right, that has decided to do it, understanding this bigger impact. Because of its motivation, I want to reach total Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And we know from sutra level that that takes multiple lifetimes to accomplish. So of course our Bodhisattva vows need to continue on in our mind stream. So there's this sense of, once we take our Bodhisattva vows, finally I'm on my way to being able to help others in both worldly ways better and ultimately, eventually. And we are thinking long term, over the many lifetimes. Again, it's meant to be an uplift. And at first it may seem like, whoa, I can't conceive of that long. And so it feels like a downer, not an uplift. But this mind has been impacted. It will stay impacted. So it means there's a lot of things we don't have to do again and again and again in future lifetimes. As if we'll pick up where we left off in next human lifetime. Presuming we get a human lifetime, that's a long story. At some point, it will be the case. So the second aspect of this uplifting our hearts, I don't have the Tibetan for that verse, but the verse continues with And now, no matter what, I will undertake those things that fit the family I have found. I will never disgrace my pure and noble family. This is us reconfirming our determination to keep our wish, to keep our vows, and to try hard. We are going to disgrace our family. We are gonna act habitually and goof up, and they know it. And this new family that we are in, their unconditional love is truly unconditional, right? They're not gonna stop loving you because, oh, I broke my Bodhisattva vows. Infinitely patient. They may get a bit wrathful if we do it again and again and again, but they're never gonna stop being there for us. And it's this relationship we're learning to cultivate. We're gonna try to be on our best behavior all the time. And that's hard, right? We can be on our best behavior when we go to the family gathering. You know, as long as that, like Uncle Joe isn't there, he always pushes my buttons. But as long as he's not there, I can be on my best behavior. And it's a bit of a strain. And when we get home, right, the term we use in English is we let our hair down, which means I go back to being me. And I don't have to be on such alert as to what I say and what I do. But the problem is when I let my hair down and be like normal me misunderstands where happiness comes from. So I go back to ignorant me. Whereas when I was on my best behavior, I'm being more like Bodhisattva wisdom being me. Do you feel the difference? We think normal me is where I want to be most of the time. And I be this, you know, on high alert with my behavior only in certain occasions, and then I let it go. In our path, we're cultivating the having my hair up state of mind, be my normal behavior. Being perfectly at home, relaxed, confident, right? At ease, being in that same state we used to call on my best behavior. And it takes time to cultivate that. But as we're recognizing the difference in what seeds I plant, we come to recognize, wow, I in fact am planting much more positive seeds when I'm on my best behavior than I am when I'm relaxed and being normal me. And at some point, we start to see that we actually want to make this shift to being on our best behavior all the time, and that it becomes our normal behavior. That's our Bodhisattva path. The third factor in uplifting our hearts is to think of what a rare thing we just did. To commit ourselves to becoming the source of happiness for all beings is extraordinary. And, you know, how many people that you know have done it? And that's a little bit odd thinking about it, because in my community, I don't live in a Buddhist community. And the people that I know there don't really even know that I spend, 18 hours a week teaching Buddhism. And even those that I have told that to, right, I don't know what they understand about that at all. So if I can realize that, there's maybe 50 people that I know in my community that they really don't know me, in any capacity like this, they have no idea that I have Bodhisattva vows. My guess is they don't even know the word. That means I don't know anything about them either, do I? I know my line dance teacher, I know the exercisers, I know the staff, but I don't know anything more about them in the same way that they don't know about me. So maybe they've all taken Bodhisattva vows and they just haven't said it because I haven't said it to them, because I don't think they'd know what that meant, right? There's no benefit telling somebody, I have Bodhisattva vows. So we don't really know how rare and special we are. But in our daily life perception, are you surrounded by people who have taken their Bodhisattva vows? Like maybe you are. Like Chris lives in an area where there are many Buddhist centers and there are many Buddhists. So maybe she comes across people in the grocery store that she's seen, right, at Bodhisattva vow ceremony. So you might have more people that you do know. But like I really don't. So that means if this is true about the power of the impact on our minds for bringing more happiness to the world is made by this vow ceremony, the fact that I've taken it is extraordinary. It does make us rare, like rare and special, rare and valuable, because of the impact of your vibration, call it, like, new age woo stuff. You are different once you take your Bodhisattva vows. And that difference has an impact. So it's uplifting for our hearts to recognize, whoa, I'm very different than I was before. And that's rare in my world. Rare and special. Because of the seeds we've planted, right? We wouldn't even call it karma at that point. We'd call it the merit that we've planted. The scripture compares us to a beggar who's searching through the garbage heap, for their next meal and something that they can sell to somebody to get a little bit of money. And oh my gosh, they come across this huge diamond. Like just dumb luck. And they go, wow, right? To end up in a human life where we meet the Dharma in such a way that we learn about taking vows and the power of vows, and to be attracted to that enough to go on to take those vows. We are like the diamond in the garbage heap that the beggar has just found. We are both the beggar and the diamond. That's supposed to uplift our hearts. Then the next part, second part, about being happy about achieving our wish or declaring ourselves to achieve the wish, is how happy we are for helping others, to be able to help others in that deep and ultimate way. We aren't there yet just by taking our vows, but we're going to be trying to help others in worldly ways with that motivation to help them in the ultimate way, right? helping in the ultimate way isn't so much a different activity, it's a different state of mind with which we do the same activity, the kindness activity. So there are 5 ways that our wish, our bodhicitta, has the power to remove suffering. Here are the 5. Drowe chidak jompa, drowe chidak jompa, not gompa, jompa. Uwa jompa, ne jompa. Shir dunya jompa, and kepar ninsum ki dunya jompa. That's 5, right? So jompa, 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 jompa. Jompa means to destroy. 5 ways the wish has the power to destroy suffering. The first one, drowe chidak jompa. Chidak, here it is the word for the Lord of Death. If you're familiar with that tanka, the wheel of life, that if we knew how to read it, it describes how through this thing called karma, we perpetuate our lifetimes of suffering. That whole wheel is held in the clutches of this creepy looking monster, right? You have the image in your head. And that creepy looking monster is just hanging out in space. Its feet are not on the ground. And that monster is a representation of this being called Lord of Death, Chidak. It's not like the Grim Reaper, like a separate being who's hanging out someplace just waiting to take you. It's the force within our ignorant karmic perpetuation that is the fact that we're using up the karma for this life from the instant of conception. That Lord of Death, it is an ugly creature because dying, we lose the opportunity. Dying is a horrible experience. Dying is the result of that big misunderstanding about where things come from, including the thing called me. When we understand accurately where things, including me, comes from, that wisdom destroys the Lord of Death. Not all in one fell swoop, but like over time. With bodhicitta, we can destroy the Lord of Death for other beings. And it's like, wait a minute, how can that possibly work? I can't take their karma. We already went through that. How can I stop their death if I can't stop them from using up their karma for this life? What, am I going to have a magic wand and just bonk people on the head and nah, ally, you're going to be ally forever? Does ally even want to be ally forever? Like, probably not, right? I want to be angel, not ally. I don't want to be Sarani forever. Do I have to die to change from Sarani to Buddha? Yeah, that's a long story. How is it that we stop the Lord of Death for others if we can't even stop the Lord of Death for ourselves yet? There's something about our wish leading us to Buddhahood, that in the process of doing that, our relationship to others and their identities becomes more and more correct, accurate to how things truly exist. That upon reaching Buddhahood, we have destroyed the death of all beings. They just don't see it yet. They just don't experience it that way yet. And so our compassion, right, will manifest in ways to help others who still perceive that death is inevitable to change their seeds too, right? What Buddha you will do is show by example and teach and guide and control and, right, try to help, but people need to do it themselves. Mind streams need to change themselves. But once we have stopped our own Lord of Death, we know what we did to do it. And we know what others need to do to stop theirs. So we will be compelled to help, to teach, to guide, to influence in any way, willingness to be what any being needs for them to stop their Lord of Death. Is that other being going to see us that way? Probably not for a long time. Like, how long did it take me to see that I had this holy being trying to help me? And I've been struggling against her, right, for a really long time. Instead of going, yeah, please help me. Droichiduk Jompa. One of the ways the wish has the power to remove suffering is, with bodhicitta, we can destroy the Lord of Death for other beings. But you see, it's a long story as to how. It's our Buddha's compassion that instantly manifests in ways to help others stop their own Lord of Death. Second one, Ulua Jompa. With bodhicitta, we can destroy poverty, both material and spiritual poverty of others. If others are in material poverty, it means they're not getting their needs met. It means on some level they are still in survival mode. And that means they are less likely to be interested or have the capacity to devote to their spiritual path. They may have a spiritual path of prayer to a holy being, asking that being to bring them their needs being met. But their focus is getting their needs, their family's needs met, overrides the ability to actually learn how to get their own needs met, which would, of course, technically be sharing things with others. Now, if you're starving and you have your family of 5 that's starving, and the neighbor's family of 6 is also starving, and you come across a little pile of bread, ordinary good person says, wow, I found bread, I can feed my family. And most of us would say, other family, you're on your own. But that's where the poverty came from in the first place. And would we be able to take that pile of bread that's only enough for my 5 and split it in half and give half to the family of 6, or maybe more than half, because there's 6 of them and only 5 of us, and be okay with only getting half or less than half than what was there? That attitude is being on one's spiritual path. So typically, not always, of course, when we're not getting our needs met, it's difficult to be able to make our choices of behavior in a way to change the circumstances of that poverty. Once we're on our spiritual path, we can use poverty or not as part of our path. So they clarify this bodhicitta wish through how we will use it to change our own behavior. We will grow the ability to be the one that helps others come to see how it is they stop their own poverty, material and spiritual. How? By way of teaching them. Now, as we grow our wish and we change our own behavior, those around us who are watching us, they're being influenced by what they see us do. So suppose in that situation, there were other people in the community and they see me come across the pile of bread and keep it all for my family. My guess, the other people in the community would just think, yeah, I'd do the same. But what if the people in the community see me come across the pile of bread and then divvy it up and give half to the other people and less to my own family, and my other neighbors see that happen? I don't need to say anything to them. Presumably they'd go, whoa, right? Maybe they go, that was stupid. Or maybe they go, wow, that was amazing. Either way, my behavior has had some influence. And my intention in there was to influence them to maybe do the same in some future situation that they're in. And that's a wee little teeny way in which our growing wish is already helping others to stop their poverty. You see? So it's not that our wish isn't going to help others until we reach total enlightenment. It's going to help others along the way by way of our behavior having an impact on others, because it's so different than what we're expected to do as an ordinary human person. Now, we're expected to yell back at the angry boss. We're expected to go and say bad things about them to my team members because they just yelled at me. And when we don't, when we go and praise the boss that just yelled at me, our team is going to go, what's wrong with you? And then you get to answer, well, if I yell back, right, it's going to come back to me later. And that's enough. We don't have to launch into the pen thing yet, right? Until they ask again and again and again. So Uwa Jumpa, our wish, will help stop the poverty of the world, of other beings. They themselves have to do the deeds that will stop their poverty. We can't do that. Ne Jompa, ne here is the word for illness. We'll come across the word ne that means a crucial point later. But ne here is illness. our bodhicitta will stop all the illness of the world. Same reasoning. Not with a magic wand, all illness goes away. Wouldn't that be great? But by way of ourselves learning firsthand where illness really comes from, where healing really comes from. Show by example to others as we're working on our own wish how to live differently, reaching our own total enlightenment, of which our compassion will spontaneously, effortlessly manifest to beings in order to be what will help them come to learn how to stop their illness. Next one, Chir Dunyal, sorry, Chir Dunyal Jompa. Dunyal is that word for suffering. Chir means in general. Our bodhicitta will destroy all kinds of suffering for every being in all the realms of samsara. Wow, that's worth trying. And the last one, Kepar Ninsam Ki Dunyal Jompa. Ninsam is the three lower realms, particularly Kepar, Nyensum, the three lower realms of suffering are destroyed. So Chik Dunyal is all suffering, but in particular, the suffering of the lower realms. Lower realms refer to hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals. Of those three lower realms, most humans are only aware of the animal realm. We can use logic to deduce the reality of the hungry ghost and hell realms, but most of us are not directly aware of that. And they're terrible sufferings, all three of them. And so our wish, these will be included in what our compassion manifests to in order to help beings that are seeing themselves suffering in that way. Okay? It means our wish includes all that. So there are subtleties in understanding these 5 ways that we will help beings when we are Buddhas are also clues as to how we use our behavior as we're growing our wish to help the beings that we do see, humans and animals, in ways that will help influence them in such a way that all these different kinds of sufferings can come to an end. The vowed behavior is the method through which we do that. Okay. So in our ceremony, we make this pledge to stop all suffering. And this is the all suffering that we will then help stop. By becoming Buddhas, it has stopped for us both these sufferings that our own being would experience. We've also already stopped it for all others. That's a long story, but they don't see it that way. And we are aware of the fact that they don't see it that way. And our compassion, that's what makes our compassion spontaneously emanate. So now, there are 2 causes for all of this suffering. And so, technically speaking, the way our wish ends all these sufferings is by stopping the 2 causes for all those sufferings. right? We can't stop the Lord of Death without stopping the cause of the Lord of Death. So the two the two causes for all suffering is Nyundrip and Shedrip. The word drip means obstacle. Nyun is mental affliction. She is short for Sharab, which is wisdom. So Nyundrip, the actual word says mental affliction obstacles, which sounds like it's saying obstacles to mental afflictions. And it's like, I don't have any obstacles to mental afflictions. They come up, right, spontaneously, effortlessly. What this means is the obstacles that my mental afflictions are, right? To have a mental affliction means I'm obstacled from having wisdom. My choice to say something critical about my friend Joe to David is a mental affliction that is an obstacle to, it's already an obstacle that's happened that blocked my saying something kind about Joe to David. Right? So our mental afflictions are the obstacles. The mental afflictions impel us to act in a way that influences our mind, meaning planting our seeds, to bring an experience back to us that's similar in some way coming at us, that instigates the habit to react to it in a similar way to how I planted it in the first place, which means I perpetuate that mental affliction obstacle, which means I still think that my behavior related to that situation is the way I should behave, when in fact it just perpetuates my suffering. And because of my mental affliction about it, I can't see that my action that I think is the right one to do is in fact the one that perpetuates the mistake. So to have a mental affliction is an obstacle. And it makes us plant our seeds with more obstacles. They influence our choice making, and our choice making perpetuates the suffering, the misunderstanding. If all those mental one moving, there you're back. When we are able to negate or stop all of those mental afflictions, that state of mind is what we call nirvana. So technically, nirvana is not something that we need to grow or plant seeds to reach. To be nirvana, a mind of nirvana, we remove the mental affliction obstacles. So our mental afflictions are obstacles to a state of mind, nirvana, called nirvana. Being in nirvana is the way we say it, but there's not a nirvana to be in. It's the state of mind that's free of mental afflictions, free of mistaking where the identities and qualities of things are coming from. So technically, the underlying mental affliction that we have is our belief that any object, any person object, any aspect of my experience, the subject, me, has my identity, the object, other, has its own identity and qualities and causes. And the interaction between us is caused by this identity and this identity coming together. And that's all so mistaken that it makes me believe that this object, the pleasure I experience from it, is in it. And that means to get that pleasure, I need to have and own and keep this object. And then that pleasure should stay. Every time I interact with this object, I should get the same amount of pleasure. But what happens? Right? Sometimes it doesn't give me that pleasure. Sometimes it actually gives me displeasure. And then we get disappointed and mad and upset, and we blame the thing. First, we blamed it for the pleasure. Now we're blaming it for the displeasure. And because of our stain of misunderstanding, we don't connect the dot. And we don't think, well, how can it be the source of my pleasure and the source of my displeasure and still be in it? We don't think of that until somebody says, look how absurd our behavior is. Same with other people. Same with our expectations of ourselves. We're misunderstanding it so badly that we have mental afflictions about them. What kind of mental afflictions? Ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, jealousy, ill will, pride, stinginess, hatred, fear, love, right? The list goes on. There's 84,000 of them apparently, which I don't know, that means not 84,010, just 84,000, but that's a lot. And they all come out of those basic three. When we remove the basic three, then all those others are doomed to failure. Because our jealousy will arise and we'll go, well, that's ridiculous. And we'll replace it with a thought of the opposite, being happy for that other person's success. Right? A thought of anger will come up and we'll go, that's silly. We'll replace it with whatever the opposite is in that situation that brought up the anger. When our mental afflictions are removed, our mind cannot get upset by anything. When we are knowing, perceiving that everything we experience, including ourselves, is coming out of our own behavior results, we can't blame anybody for anything. We won't have mental afflictions. And that's what it is to have reached nirvana. Ninja, remove the obstacles and there's no, remove the mental afflictions and there are no mental afflictions. Like, that seems obvious. Now, how to do it, right? It's trickier. Underneath the mental afflictions, of course, is the Shedra, obstacles to omniscience. So in that explanation, we heard that the mental afflictions come out of the misunderstanding where the pleasure and displeasure actually comes from. We're thinking it's from the object, when in fact it's from our own past behavior. That belief that the pleasure and displeasure is coming from the object is the misunderstanding, the ignorance. And when we reach nirvana, by removing all the mental afflictions, we still have remnants in our mind from all the past instances when we did believe that things had their identities and qualities in them. So the first, like the doorway onto the conveyor belt to either nirvana or Buddhahood is to have that direct experience of the fact that no object, outer or self, have their natures or qualities in them. Once we experience that directly for the first time and come out of it, we can never again believe the things that seem to have their identities in them. We experience them that way, but we don't believe it anymore. That's what allows us to not act from the mental affliction. We use that to stop perpetuating the mental afflictions. When our mental afflictions are all gone, we're at nirvana. But the mind that's at nirvana still has seeds from having behaved when we were not yet nirvana. And those seeds are still colored with the old belief. They're so subtle at the point of reaching nirvana, as I understand it, that they're just like teeny little pieces of dust. They can't ripen into any full-on ignorance ever again, but they are obstacles to our mind experience itself as omniscient. In the same way that when we remove all mental afflictions, our mind experiences itself as nirvana. When all of these little teeny pieces of dust from past ignorance are removed, our mind experiences itself as omniscient. Omniscient means we are perceiving appearing reality and the emptiness of all appearing reality simultaneously. As long as we have those dust particles, we can't do that simultaneously. When all the mental afflictions are gone and the dust particles are gone, you are omniscient. When that clearing out those dust particles requires that huge, huge compassion and love that we turn on as we turn our renunciation on to others and step onto the Mahayana path. Remember that piece in our wish. It takes the hugeness of wanting the ultimate goal, total Buddhahood, the omniscience, and the hugeness for the benefit of all sentient beings. It's that hugeness of the wish that grows the power to be able to clear out the dust of the remnants from belief in self-existence that we've been accumulating since beginningless time. Right? So beginningless time is as big a concept as the total Buddhahood and the all sentient beings. So we need to override that ignorance from all sense beginningless time with these two bignesses, total Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. The all sentient beings component is our compassion and love growing big enough to then be the force that manifests as what all those beings need to give up and take up in order to reach their total enlightenment. See how the wish drives us to the end, being the source of the end of all suffering for all sentient beings. And see how long it takes to do that. 3 countless eons, we learned. or 500 years, or, you want to crank up the juice, 7 lifetimes, that's the 500 years, or you want to crank up the juice technically in this lifetime. But the same process, however we go about it. So you are studying the method that one can apply oneself to reach the point where we step onto the conveyor belt to that goal, in which we start our career of Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating, which is what we are meant to become. Not just this human meant to become, this mind stream, right, is evolving towards. We can do it eventually, or we can do it more intentionally. And growing our wish is our effort to become more intentional on our path. They say then that growing our wish for enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings is the highest way to get the essence out of our life. So do you remember, Lamrim studiers, we finally meet a teacher, and the first thing they say is, get the essence of your life. Oh, how do I do that? And it's a long story. And here, right, we're like halfway through the Lamrim outline, and they say, now you finally figured out how to get the essence of your life. And once you take your Bodhisattva vows, you're committing yourself. You're seeing yourself, commit yourself to getting the essence of this life. Yay, right? It's supposed to uplift our hearts, to go, whoa, I get it. Right? I see the big picture. I want to be a part of it. I hope that's where I'm leaving you, is like, ooh, I want to be a part of that, versus I don't think so. But the Buddhas love us the same, even if we say, I don't think so, not right now. Right? So not to worry. So remember that being we wanted to be able to help. We've learned a lot that we will use sooner or later to help them stop their suffering together, like to get to all together. Like we just saw the big picture. And what a great goodness that is. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how over the moon happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your connection to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, inspire you, help you, teach you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And then carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everybody, everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. Alrighty. Thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow, online and in person. I'm eager for that. For the 35 Confession Buddha class, that will be fun. And then Chris has a video from the FPMT Foundation for the PMT Preservation of the Mahayana and Tantra of the 35 Buddha practice. So it's recorded. You can follow it along. It's really beautifully done. It's a wee bit different than the way Geshe Michael taught it to me. The Buddhas are all the same. Their name translations are a little bit differently. So at the end of my sharing, the way I was taught, you are welcome to request that video from Chris if it would be
Oops.
helpful to have it.
I
But
just put it in. I just put it in now. I thought you were wanting me to hear it now.
right, but I'd rather you not look at it first. Okay, so just wait with it. Okay. All right, and then if you want to use it, that's fine.
And then I'd be happy to, the video part I did, so I can edit that to match Geshe Michael's practice.
Okay, well, right, okay, so it was beautifully done, by the way. Chris is amazingly talented. So, but wait to learn it before you look at it, please. All right, so if for some reason you want to join that and you're not signed up, let me know, or reach out to somebody else, reach out to anybody else in class and share the video link with them. That's fine. Okay, I'm trying to stop my recording here. That didn't need to be on the recording. All right, stop recording. Yes.